welcome to this month's conversation with Eammon and Ken Lee, where we talk about the most popular tweet of the last month, this being December. This one, actually, I caught this and tweeted it myself from Genome Web, quoting an article in Boing Boing, interviewing James Watson. He's coming out with an anniversarial, is that a word? Anniversarial?
We'll go with it for now.
Anniversarial edition of the Double Helix, which is his and Crick's and Rosalind Franklin's discovery of the Double Helix.
No, let's not forget Maurice Wilkins now also.
And why would that be? Why should we not forget Maurice Wilkins?
Well, thank you for setting this one up for me, Ken. He is one of New Zealand's great scientists, along with the fellow who split the atom, Rutherford. We've got a couple, but yeah.
Oh, really? Robert Rutherford?
Yeah,
That's
well,
impressive.
Like a lot of New Zealand scientists, they were born in New Zealand and did most of their education in the UK.
Well, we can't actually forget Maurice Wilkins, because he plays a pivotal role in the debate that takes place about 60 years ago in the 1950s when the DNA was solved. Maurice Wilkins is a biophysicist, and he was trying to figure out the structure of DNA along with the biologists and physicists on the other side, which were Watson and Crick. And here, the main issue of contention is when Wilkins, he was at King's College and hired to be the new head of the, X-ray crystallography group was a lady by the name of Rosalind Franklin. And the boss of these two, Randall, did not communicate to either of them. Did not communicate to Maurice Wilkins that he was being moved over for Rosalind. Rosalind was going to be the head of this project. And this caused a serious contention in the work environment between these two. Exactly.
It seems from the best that we can piece together that Rosalind Franklin was told that she was going to be taking charge of the department. Maurice Wilkins was not of that opinion. He thought she was there to support him. And the way it transpired from there on out was that Maurice was much closer to Watson and Crick, who worked from another lab, of course. And he, being a friend of theirs, sort of coloured their view of Rosalind Franklin, which led to the original version of the Double Helix written by James Watson being somewhat unflattering in the way that it portrayed Rosalind Franklin. And then we see now this new version, this anniversary edition of the Double Helix coming out, and it seems to be a slightly more balanced one. It still has the original, almost autobiographical account of James Watson's, but they have also put in some independent third-party letters and documentations, a lot of it refuting some of the opinions that Watson held to, and in some areas it seems to make him look a little bit foolish, but one of the areas where it really does is the Rosalind Franklin case, where it seems that he was quite unfairly biased against her in light of some of the other correspondence that's come out.
So it's interesting to see what happened here. If you were to kind of understand now what we know now, what really happened. This certainly could be a communication error, sending a letter to Rosalind Franklin and not really confronting your Maurice Wilkins. Is that all that is? I mean, is it? This to me is not something you would just simply send a letter. Even if you sent two letters, one to each, in today's world it might be email, but is that how you handle a situation like this?
You would certainly think that it warrants a face-to-face conversation. Now, I mean, one potential, alternative storyline to this may be, in fact, that Maurice Wilkins did have it communicated to him that, in fact, Rosalind was there to lead the team. But he chose to ignore it, and out of male pride or whatever else you might call it, didn't communicate that to his two colleagues, Watson and Crick, and then also began to undermine Rosalind Franklin. Perhaps it was his own campaign against her, but some of the other correspondence beneath the line on this particular article suggests that Maurice Wilkins probably wouldn't have done that, that in fact it really was a genuine misunderstanding, and in which case, you have to say a terrible misunderstanding, because it strained some relationships, and who knows, obviously they all succeeded despite it, but what a great discovery may have been messed up if they hadn't been able to keep things on track there.
It's interesting, and I speak in sports analogies a lot, but football, if they're marching to a championship, it's often mentioned, especially after either a win, that they have great team chemistry. We really get along. We really treat each other as brothers in the trenches on the football field. Or if they lose, like, you kind of hear some of the arguments that come out of the locker room, and you talk about the bad chemistry. Could this relationship have been doomed from the start? Regardless of communication, what it seems to indicate from Watson was that these two had polar opposite personalities.
Indeed. But then by the same token, can sometimes conflict drive greater achievement, perhaps to their own internal rivalry and one against the other. Who's to say? But I will just quote one of the letters that was actually submitted, or not a letter, but a comment that was made beneath the line, if I may. It was by a fellow who has his own science blog, Austin Elliott, and he says that his father, Gerald Elliott, went to King's as a grad student and was familiar with a lot of the personalities. And actually, his PhD supervisor was J.T. Randall, who was the department head that failed to communicate to Wilkins and to Franklin exactly what the dynamics of their relationship would be going forward. And his father corroborated the idea that J.T. Randall, for whatever reason, was just not a very good communicator. Probably was the author of everything that followed. So, interesting, he just obviously wasn't a very strong leader.
Well, I appreciate you being on this earth for 36 years, having come to that wisdom, Eammon.
Thank you.
That conflict can generate ideas. I think you're right. I think this would not have happened without Rosalind Franklin.
Right.
It's her, there's a more sophisticated word to say, sketches of DNA, but her X-ray crystallographic evidence really laid the groundwork. And she came in from outside. And I think that's a good lesson for us all, is when you're building groups, chemistry is part of it, but different points of view and different perspectives. And you can come to those perspectives agreeably, but really building these teams where you have different sorts of views and expertise, I think is important. And it's proven true here, I think, with Watson and Crick and Rosalind Franklin's discovery of DNA.
Yeah, quite right. I mean, there's no question that that different point of view really does help an awful lot. And in this case, yes, it wasn't harmonious, but that was probably for other reasons. I wonder, would things have progressed any differently if the relationship had been more properly delineated between the two? I wonder if in an academic environment where, for instance, Maurice Wilkins was someone else referred to him, I think, in the article as a freelance scientist who kind of had his own patch in there, whether it is actually all that terribly easy to tell researchers that are in a collaborative environment who reports to who and who's in charge of things, perhaps in this era and in this college at that time. But you wonder if it would have progressed any differently if this had been properly managed. It certainly ended with the right result in terms of discovery. Perhaps the only thing that came out of it was a flawed autobiographical account by James Watson. Who knows?
Who knows? But certainly, I think it might be good literature to read. I certainly was interested in reading a little bit more about this, and hopefully they can make us think about these and other kinds of questions. So we're grateful for you out there listening to us for this podcast. Feel free to email us or tweet at us at competitive. And this is Ken signing off.
Thanks a lot, everyone.